Hello everyone, I'm Mohammed Rutlish. Most of you probably know me from last year's speech, and I'm really glad to be here today again. So, today's subject is a little bit different from last year, but it is very important in this day and age. So, nuclear energy. Nuclear energy promised the world to get back on its feet after the shock and horror of the wars and the use of atomic bombs in the 1940s. And everyone was questioning if nuclear energy was safe or not, would there be nuclear-powered cars or planes, but one thing was certain though, the future will be atomic. So, in the beginning, companies found it very difficult and expensive, so they took a step back and decided to stick with oil and gas to produce energy. So, the project of nuclear power was delayed, but they didn't abandon it completely. Because, come on, the sound of free electricity and being independent in oil and gas was pretty good. And also, the possession of atomic weapons back then was a very big deal. So, there came the 1970s, where oil prices skyrocketed after the war in the Middle East, then was built more than half of the reactors that we find today, with different variations and different types. So, let's take the light water reactor as an example. This reactor wasn't too famous or too innovative, but it was cheap and it was practical. But as we all know, if something is cheap, then it's unreliable and can not be safe sometimes. So, with time going on, more and more reactors have been built. Today, nuclear energy meets around 10% of the world's energy demands. We have about 440 reactors built and 100 more planned to be built in the future. So, but 80% of the reactors that are present today use old technology. So, countries are left with either replacing it with a newer technology but less tested, so we don't know what the consequences are, or we could stick to oil and gas. So, the question here is, should we really use nuclear energy? Now let's begin with what nuclear energy really is. So, the energy is found inside the nucleus of the atom, which is the core of the atom, consisted of protons and neutrons. To make use of this energy, there are two ways. There's either nuclear fusion, which consists of joining the atoms together, or nuclear fission, which is splitting the atoms apart. But the problem is, the power plants are not capable to produce energy from nuclear fusion safely. So they rely on using pellets of the element uranium to cause the atoms to split apart. So how does this work? The reactor causes the uranium to break apart, so they release tiny little particles called fission products, which on their own cause other uranium atoms to split apart, causing a chain reaction. So this chain reaction causes the cooling agent to heat up, produce steam. This steam turns turbines, and the turbines themselves turn other motors and other reactors to produce energy. But the real problem here is the used pellets of uranium are highly toxic and radioactive, and they can stay radioactive for thousands of years. That's why a lot of people are concerned about nuclear energy. So, one of the incidents that happened because of the light water reactor is Chernobyl, which probably most of you people know. So, the Chernobyl power plant is consisted of 4 reactors. The incident itself wasn't actually caused by a mechanical error, it was actually more caused by a human error. So, how did it happen? Experimenters wanted to test and see how long the coolant pump could last under the condition of turbine coast down and no steam supply. But for some reason, the scientists just wanted a continuous steam supply. So they ran the test with the reactor on, which was a very serious problem. It caused a power excursion that overheated the fuel. So the fuel disintegrated into the coolant pump, got into the coolant, which caused steam explosions with such force that the lid of the reactor blew up. The explosion itself caused around 40 to 50 deaths, but the aftermath of the radiation caused many other deaths due to radiation sickness, lung cancer, pneumonia, and many other diseases. Also, wildlife was completely gone. Animals were dead, vegetation was gone, and literally no one lives there anymore. So, even the Soviet Union created a danger zone of around 1,600 square miles. And this zone only consists of heavy radiation, let alone, I don't know, maybe the radiation zone was way bigger than that. So, but with today, it's getting a little bit better. Wildlife seems to be back a little bit. You know, there are reports of people saying they've seen some moose, some deers, some bears. But for Chernobyl to be completely safe again, it would take around 2,000 years. So guys, what do you think? Should we really use nuclear power or not? That's my speech for today, and thank you very much.